everybody. Welcome to the launch of the EA Essentials. My name's Scarlett Vesper and I manage all the brand and marketing for Priority Management Australia. I've been working with Mario, Wayne and the team over the last few years and feel truly privileged to be part of this business. Their work ethic, professionalism and general care has made my job a joy. Launching EA Essentials is a milestone for EAs as it offers a proven combination of tools and processes formed by years of experience and an array of skill sets that serve our all-important EAs, the heartbeat of every organisation. Our lineup today includes productivity specialist Mario Haluvas, CEO founder John Karagounis and EA Samantha Webb. We're also being joined by our online guests, so welcome to all of you. And so excited you can join us today. We would also like to thank our contributors for donating their products for our gift bags today, and would also like to thank our main sponsors of the event, L'Oreal, Nespresso, Beatty's Bakes, for their contribution. So after our speakers conclude, you can speak with our team members who will be over here to your right, and they'll have all the program details if you need any more information and to get a printout. Our first speaker and lead creator of the EA Essentials program is Mario Haluvas, Productivity Specialist and the National Learning and Development Manager of Priority Management Australia. For those who know Mario, you know that his reputation precedes him as one of the most inspiring and engaging facilitators and executive coaches. Mario is considered a leading expert in Australia on the working relationship between the executive and the executive assistant. He will now take you through the EA Essentials.
Thanks. Thanks so much, Scarlett. Wow. You'll often hear people say that behind every successful executive, there's an amazing executive assistant. But in these times of change, I'm here to say, let's change that sentence a little bit. Behind every successful executive, standing next to them, there's an extraordinary EA who needs to step into their light and really claim it today. And that's what we're here to celebrate. So welcome everyone to EA Essentials, because honestly, working with assistants now for the last 10 years primarily and really focusing on what they do has shown me and told me that a lot of people still don't understand the role. A lot of people, there's a lot of misconceptions around the role, even the name of the role. Sometimes we've got to relook at that, and I see it all the time. And today I really want to talk about the role, talk about the experience that we've had with assistants and how we're supporting them and executives, and really some of the things that we can be doing to make this role shine. And I'm so excited to have a lot of you in this room today who I know I've worked with personally, and a lot of you joining us online. So those that are joining online, welcome. I think you can feel my excitement. This has been 10 years in the making with my team and us here today to celebrate this great event. So let's talk a little bit around the EA itself and why are they the heartbeat of an organisation? I think they're the heartbeat because think about what an executive assistant does. They're working with an executive at a high level, working with strategy, their confidence to all this information, and they've got a lot of knowledge. They know everything that's happening in that business, yes? And then think about how they go out and have lunch and they've got all these friends and they know everyone in the business and they talk and they're having lunch in the lunchroom with frontline employees and they're hearing the vibe and they're feeling the atmosphere and they go back to their executive and go, hey, don't know if you realize, John, but there's a few things happening here in our business that you need to know about. So they're the conduit. Would we agree they're the conduit that brings everything together? And this is what I feel is so extraordinary and why it is a complicated and complex role. Because when we really dissect the role, an executive assistant wears more than 15 hats. So I see assistants every day say, Mario, what do we call ourselves? What do I write down as my job responsibilities? And a lot of them can't define it. Because if we really start to define the role of the assistant, we're going to start saying that you're a project manager, you're an event coordinator, you're a strategist, you're an emotional intelligence specialist, you're a negotiator, you're a scheduler, you do everything. and you're expected to do everything really well. True? And I'm talking to the converted, I know, right? Because the majority of the audience today are executive assistants, and that's why we're here today. So you are the heartbeat of the organization. So you know what things I don't want to hear is things like, oh, I'm just the EA. No, we're not just anything. We're changing that language. I am, we were even talking with Danny the other day, and we were talking about, assistant. Why is that even worded there? I'm the executive enabler, I think we're saying. I'm the executive orchestrator. We're doing so much in this role. And I want to talk to you a little bit about the story around where the program came from, where the history comes behind working with EAs, particularly some of my journey. And my journey started, I would say, probably around 10 years ago. And I'm going to do a call out because I know she's joining us online. Tammy Tanchev, who I met, and she said, Mario, I'm speaking at this EA conference. Would you like to come along and co-speak with me? And I'm like, yeah, sure, that would be fun. I've never done a lot of work with EAs before that. I knew of EAs in the role, but hadn't done a lot of work. So we went along, she introduced me, and I was in a room with hundreds of EAs at a conference. And we did this talk, and I thought, wow, for a productivity specialist to be in a room full of these organized people, right? Because that's what executives are, they're organized, aren't they? I thought, how am I going to even make a difference? These guys are already organized. They don't even need what I do. But then when I started to work with them and started to just show them little refinements that we can make in their technology collaboration, in some of their processes, and I saw some of their jaws drop and go, Mario, why don't we know some of this stuff? No one's shown us this. And this was coming from executive assistants who have done the role for 20 years. And I said, no one shows you. You get into that role and you're expected to know it. And then it started, and I thought, I love this world. I love this world. And then it started to be going to more EA conferences, working more with EAs. And then I started to do a lot more work in this executive EA relationship, which I know just looking around the room, I've actually worked with a lot of people individually here with your executives and yourselves, and looking at what is it that an executive needs and what is it that an assistant can provide to have this beautiful working relationship. And when I get to these executive sessions, it's all around, you've got to be open and honest with me, warts and all. Don't hold back. And it's really funny. And I know there's someone in the room who I will coaching recently. And again, I'm not going to mention names because I'm not going to highlight, but the executive said straight away, Mario, this feels like a marriage counseling session. And you know what? That's what I put in my title. I am a work relationship managed counselor as well. Because I say to the executive, what is it that you're getting and what do you need? To the assistant, what are you doing and what do you need? And I'm there negotiating both. And we're having these three-way discussions around process. We're talking about ways and rhythms of working. We're talking about, have you got all your technology on point, streamlined and talking to each other? Are we paperless or are we trying to be paper light? And are we utilizing everything to be really effective? Because we all know executives do not have enough time. That's the one thing we keep understanding. So through these interactions of years of hearing feedback and research, it started to give myself, and not just myself, the team that I'm working with, we've got Danny Bennett here, which I'm going to talk about today, who's been really instrumental in bringing the modules that we're looking at today, particularly the behavioral modules, because she's got 25 years of behavioral experience and working with assistants and executives herself. And there's been a lot of banter around. We sat down at one point and said, okay, let's look at the role of the executive assistant. And if you wanted to be an assistant, what is it that you really need? What are some of these key result areas that they need? And what are some of these competencies to be an awesome and really extraordinary EA, right? So you know how hard that's going to be to dissect the role, don't you? So don't chastise us. Don't say, oh, there's more that should be up there, because we're just saying this is not the definitive list. But these are the areas where we got it to, where we feel these were some of the skill sets. And just take a moment to have a look at some of those skill sets and just tick them off in your head and go, yeah, I do that. I influence, I negotiate all the time. I'm constantly doing mediation, aren't I, with people. I do project management. I'm always anticipating needs. Meeting management, problem solving, technology. So these are some of those key result areas that if you're a newer EA coming into the role, we would say, make sure you fine tune a lot of these skill sets. Is everyone agreeing with me? Do we feel like, and there's probably more there, right? We haven't captured all, but we've brought them in some key areas. And then from these skill sets, we've been training. This is not the first time that we've been doing customized programs for executive assistants. We're now just formalizing it a little bit more. And I'll tell you where that came from as well, because again, I had another client who again is in the room with us today, who reached out to me and said, Mario, we'd like to look at our business and look at our executive assistants and do a training needs analysis and look at how we can really enhance their role and give them the training that they need to let them shine and be extraordinary in their roles, okay? Because I don't know about you guys, but it's often, I feel, a role that sometimes is a little bit overshadowed when it comes to training, right? I've got assistants that says, I don't even feel like I get enough of a development discussion with my executive because they're so busy and things are just happening. And if things are happening seamlessly in your role, that means you're doing a wonderful role. You're doing a great job because things don't go wrong really because you're making things harmonious and happen. So we sat down and said, absolutely. I said, I'd love to do that. I'd love to look at, and again, we sat down, brought Danny in, and we got our brains trust of our team together. And we thought, okay, if we're going to do a training needs analysis, what do we need to do? The first thing we needed to do is come up with some questions to be able to extrapolate these skill sets. Yeah. So we came up with roughly around 29 questions through a questionnaire where EAs could sit down and fill it out. And it would give us a little indication of where they were strong and where there were some skills gaps. From the 29 questions, we then conducted interviews of 30 minutes with each individual assistant to find out and ask questions and say, tell me a little bit more around this so we can understand it. So it wasn't just a questionnaire, it was a discussion. From that, we then gave the questionnaire to the executive. Fair? Different perspective. Don't get me wrong, we also asked the assistant also around some questions around the executive as well. So it wasn't all just about the assistant, it was also about the executive because we know that they can impact that relationship quite a bit, can't they? And then we interviewed some of the executives where necessary, and we've run a few of these already around different clients. So we started off with this one, and then we've run more since then, and that's given us more research. And through a brains trust of executive assistants, and a lot of you are either joining online or in this room, and doing the training needs analysis and years of clients coming to us and asking us for particular programs for their assistants, we then thought, okay, some clients don't want to go through a training needs analysis. They just want to get their EAs together and say, what are some programs that speak the EA language? What are some modules that you could deliver to us that really have the EA role in mind? And that's exactly what we've done through EA Essentials program. So I'm going to share with you in a moment, you're going to see there will be some modules that we're going to look at, which are behavioral, which you might have seen on our banners, and there's some technical modules. And we know that when you put these together is where we start to really see everything come through and be harmonious. Because as an assistant, it's not just about getting the tech side right, it's also the process side and the behavior side. Considering that there are so many skill sets that all of you do and have to utilize day to day. So this was a skills gap, just to give you a quick idea of when we did the training. This is a bit of a sample skills gap. And you'll see sometimes there is a little bit of variance between what the executive sees and what the EA sees. And this was really important to identify as well is what are executives asking for? And you know what executives were asking for a little bit more? I would love for my assistant to be a little bit more analytical in their decision making and a bit more dynamic when they're making decisions and looking at it from a different lens. Right? Executives were saying, I would love my assistant to be doing a little bit more of this. And then sometimes the assistant, even though the assistant might have felt that they were meeting the expectation, in some cases, the executive might have not felt that. But you know what happened? The executive never really communicated that. Has anyone had that situation happen? Where years later you find out, I have it all the time in coaching sessions, the executive says, I don't really use categories. And the assistant goes, well, why have I been doing it for 7 years? Like what? Tell me, oh, thanks for letting me know now, but you know, I've just been wasting my time. So again, it's extraordinary. Or, you know, we're doing meeting requests and we've got that 15-minute reminder popping up and the executive goes, I actually hate that. And it's like, well, great, well, let's get rid of it. So I'm turning the call. That's where I'm working with assistants. I'm going, ask all the right questions, right? Go back. And I did this recently when I was working with John Karagunis at one of his EA circles. We talked about the great realignment and realigning your relationship with your executive. Asking different questions. In this world now, what worked 2 years ago may not work now. right? So we really do need to think about the changes. So some of them, so when we got to the end of the training needs analysis, these were the recommendations that we would provide, and we do provide. Technical upskilling, if there was any technical upskilling. Behavioral upskilling. What are the behaviors that we feel have come out of these interviews and questionnaire? What are some productivity areas that we feel we might be able to look at, some processes around productivity, and things such as even EA culture and morale and how communication is happening within the business. I know we've all seen it before, but we've all sometimes seen silos in businesses. And it also happens amongst EAs as well within businesses. You know, I'm constantly preaching to EAs, if we don't have a directory, like even in OneNote where we can put all our things in there and we've got that centralized place, let's think about doing that. Let's think about that. So, you know, when one EA over there needs to find that florist or they need to get accommodation in Melbourne, they go to one place and it's all there. And those of you, I know there's some people nodding who have done that with us, you know that makes a difference. Let's start sharing resources. So this is where we give the recommendations back. And then it's up to the client to say, we'll fix those gaps, or can you help us? Most of the time, we're hoping they're going to say, can you help us? Because you know we can, and this is where we do step in and help you. And this is where they can come in, and if they don't want to do the analysis, they can just come through and look at some of the behavioural modules and say, these are some of the areas that we would like to fine-tune the skills. Now, when a lot of you as EAs look at these skills and modules, you might go, yeah, but we do that every day in our jobs. Yeah, of course you do. That's why you're EAs. Right? Every day you're communicating really well and you're prioritizing, and you know, I would say a lot of times we're managing expectations, but Danny and I were talking about this. These days as an EA, you can't just manage expectations. You really need to go in there and recalibrate expectations. We just had that chat outside in the hallway. You know, before COVID, we're doing this and people expected this of us. And now we've got to go back and change that whole process and expectation, how things were done. So it's a realignment. So when we're looking at these modules, even high-paced prioritization, every single one of us in our jobs needs to prioritize, correct? But as an assistant, you're not just prioritizing for yourself, are you? You're prioritizing sometimes 7 different things in 1 second. And with an executive that's faster than you can imagine, and they're go, 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 you've got other people demanding time here. So this is where we need to go in and look at beyond what's urgent and what's important. But things like, have I got my centralized planning working really seamlessly, right? Am I teaching rather than just telling? Because how easy it is as an assistant when you're busy, just to say, oh, leave it with me, I'll get that done. Leave it here, it's easier for me to do it. But the more we keep doing that, we know it can create more work for us in the long term, can't we? So teaching them and saying, hey, let me show you where that OneNote link is. Just go there, you'll see all the instructions on that page and show them how to do it. And then next time you're going to save time. So we go in and we talk about those things in high-paced prioritization. And like I said, even down to looking at powerful persuasion. Powerful persuasion, I know we're always influencing, we're always persuading people to do things in the role of the assistant. But sometimes we go to what we're comfortable with. So for example, you might be trying to get someone to your way of thinking and you need them to do something. So we might be using the law of authority. So we're using maybe name dropping our boss's name to get something done. Sometimes you guys use scarcity. Oh, if you don't get in quick, we've only got 2 slots left and you're going to lose those. Anyone ever done that? You know, yep, get in quick because I can't hold it too long. And, you know, he's busy or she's busy. So we use scarcity, right? But sometimes we need to not use, the law of authority or scarcity. It could be we're going to use a little bit of reciprocity. What am I giving and what are those relationships I'm building so that next time when I need you to do something, I'm going to call on that law of reciprocity. Or it could be, the incremental yesing that Danny goes through, and I love this one, and we talk about this all the time. You need your executive to make it, get to your point of view of thinking, which is an art form a lot of the time. And you start with a small yes that they're going to say yes to. And you go to the second yes and then the third yes. And by the time you get to the last thing that you really want the yes on, they already said yes before you even know it. Right. So really amazing techniques that we know that assistants use and value, and it's just refining and fine tuning some of your existing skill sets. We're adding more modules as we speak. And this is where I've been reaching out to a lot of you and you've been even talking to me and giving me ideas around what are the other things that assistants do, like representing the brand of your executive. How important is that all the time? Representing that brand, and how do we do that? So with these, you will have a QR code that you'll be able to scan to download the brochure that will give you, and that will be on your forms that are in front of you today. And those of you joining us online will receive an email as well that you'll be able to get that brochure so you can go through these modules and have a look in greater detail of the behavioural ones. And Danny's going to be here today talking to those that would like more information on some of these, and so are our relationship managers. And we will be taking some questions at the end for our online delegates. So I'll be putting those questions through, and we've got Danny there answering some of those for you. But I also want to take you through to the technical modules as well. And as we all know, as assistants, we need to be the masters of the technology, because our executives do not have time to be able to navigate the world of technology and know what's happening out there. So I always say to an assistant, this is your domain. What's new, what's working? And you'll notice here, we've got a range of different modules. And if we start at the top, I know a lot of people have done Outlook Working Smart or Outlook Essentials with us, and where we go in and we look at that day-to-day of connecting with your executive and getting that fundamental tool. And if it's not Outlook, you might be working in the G Suite. Again, the same principles we'll be teaching you, but in the G Suite, making sure that that's aligning and working for you and your executives. And that one Teams, that's reared its big head, hasn't it, in the last couple of years? And that's now trying to nudge in and take over. And now there's this big question around, okay, I've got Outlook, I've got Teams, and how do I manage, which one do we communicate in? And my executive doesn't really know Teams. I don't really want to use it that much, but they get in heaps of messages. They miss half their messages, and the story goes on. Sound familiar to some? And this is where we're going in. And when we do these sessions, we've extrapolated them and condensed them down, because you guys are time poor. We know that. And we can't take you away from your executives for too long. So a lot of these modules are down to 2-hour modules. And some of them are 2 times 2 hours, because we just can't physically squeeze it into 2 hours. And some of you have already been through these modules, because some companies have already started, and I'm getting a few nods in the back, have already been through some of these modules. So things like MS Teams and OneNote, the favorite child of the family. For any assistant, and I love it when I go to a conference with EAs and I'll often see note taking, and I'll see EAs sitting there with their OneNote, and that's my dream come true. It's like when I get to 80% of EAs working in OneNote and capturing those notes. And the interesting part is when I speak to executives and executives say, and I show them, or a CEO, and I show them OneNote, and they go, this is incredible. So I can be taking my notes. I walk out of that meeting and my assistant can see all those notes. Yeah, and they've already actioned what I want. Absolutely. Absolutely. So you'll notice that we've got some technical modules up there. What we found and this one over here, I love the good old SharePoint OneDrive. That's rearing its head lately too. What's the difference, Murray? Where do they live? What are they doing? How do we make these work more effectively to link into Teams? So again, having that knowledge so you can just make it simple, right? SharePoint, that's like the G Drive in the cloud. We share information. OneDrive, it's like my documents. Right? That's where you can put your documents and we can share them through there. So making sure we understand those, and then having the basic understanding and the essential understanding of Excel, PowerPoint, Word, and Planner, that came through as well. Now, most EAs know how to use all of those, but they go, I don't use it much. I haven't used Excel for years. What about that next executive needs you to really be confident in PowerPoint and some of these skill sets, making sure that we're focusing those examples on to what you would need in these technology modules. So just to let you know, all the modules, EA examples, every example you're given is an EA specific example and scenario, not generic ones. So if we're working in Excel, we might be doing, agenda registers. If we're working in PowerPoint, we're looking at that design element that you would need to do for an executive. What would you need to do? And this has come through feedback, remember, from EAs, what they need and what they feel they excel in. So everyone, as you can see, some really targeted modules around skills around behaviors, and also some skills around technology, which brings it together, and you can just pluck out the modules that you want. Some companies are deciding to do this over 6 to 12 months and make it like a development program. Amazing. We can customize them further, but that's where we have to have a discussion. All of these need a discussion, because we don't just pluck them off the shelf and give them to you. Every single one is molded and discussed. Okay, so we will take some more questions at the end of the session. At the end of the launch, we'll allow some more questions from the room, and we'll take some questions online. But just to keep the flow going, I'm going to move us into our next speaker, who I've had the pleasure of meeting at a EA conference and I was listening to him speak. And he had me from the minute he said hello. I thought, who is this guy? Amazing. I need to go up and meet with him. Incredible. And the wisdom that he spoke about was beyond words. And he's a thought leader in this space of working with executives and EAs. He's a recognized author. He's a keynote speaker, and he's a podcaster and a blogger, to add a few more things to his title. He is extraordinary. In 2008, he launched, and he's the founder, he's the CEO and managing director of the CEO Circle. And he works with some of the most incredible minds around the world. And he really knows what's happening in business right now. So he attends these exclusive confidential forums with CEOs and executives from the top companies around Australia, and he knows what's happening. If I need to know something or what's happening and I want to get my finger on that pulse around executives, business, EAs, I ring John. And I know a lot of you know him. I know there's a lot of people from EA Circles who are joining here today, so welcome as well. But I don't need to say much more. John's going to share with us today his perspective of what executives are wanting and expecting from executive assistants in this new world. And I've got to say, one of his blogs that he wrote that still stands out in my head is executive assistants are the superheroes without capes. And I thought that encapsulated what an EA is down to the T. So John, without further ado, can you give him a round welcome? Thank you so much.
He set the bar right up here, so I've got a lot to account for. In my pocket, I've got a list of words. As I was writing this late last night, and I sort of repositioned my whole presentation to you all this morning. I want you to think about a set of words. So I want you to think about emerging and emerge. Embrace, step out, believe, big one, believe, disrupt, empathy, resilience, robustness, adapting, anticipating, and the critical one that underpins all of that and underpins your greatest success is the mindset that you bring to the table, your mindset. So as we slowly emerge out of COVID and learn to live with this thing, because we are living with it, hasn't gone anywhere, it's still around. We find ourselves in a new space, managing the social and economic changes that have occurred. Compounding this are the challenges of leading organisations in a world experiencing unprecedented geopolitical volatility and uncertainty. These and a number of other varied topics are what are being discussed at length and ad nauseum around the CEO circles and around all our circles right around the country, whether it's the CEO circle, the EA circle, or the Future Leaders Circle. Everyone's talking about it. It's top of mind. It's taking up a lot of our time and our space. It's exhausting, right? For all of us. So one standout point for all of us as leaders, because all of you in this room are leaders, everything that Mario talked about in terms of the influencing skills, your persuasion and what you do, you are a leader to the nth degree. We need to embrace a couple of things. And what I mean by embrace, you need to embrace your robustness, your resilience, and your ability to manage negative responses within your organisation, internally and externally. It's an incredible opportunity to shine. This is your opportunity, and as Mario said, to step into the light, but I want you to step out of the shadows and into the light. Find your voice, use your voice, and most importantly, as Sandra Sully, one of our esteemed EA Circle chairs says, own your own space. Find your voice, use your voice, and own your own space. Believe in yourself, back yourself, and have the confidence to know that your opinion, your perspective, what you say matters. What you say is respected, and what you say is what people are looking forward to hearing. And most importantly, you matter. I love what Mario said. You are not just an EA. I hate hearing that. Just an EA. I'm just an EA. You are the superheroes without capes. You do things behind the scenes when no one knows you do it. You make things happen like no one else does. You don't want the accolades. You don't want the pats on the back. Oh, yes, you do. Yes, you do. On that odd occasion, you do, but you get taken for granted. So the mindset that you bring to the table and on the screen and wherever it is, because at the moment we've got, all the people that are joining us remotely, all the people that are joining us from wherever, across Australia, across Asia, wherever it might be. How good is that? They can connect with us. That's a positive that's come out of COVID, not a negative, but it's the mindset. Oh, hybrid is so hard to deal with. Really? Well, we're connecting much more often than we otherwise would. Again, it's the mindset. It's the way that you're actually positioning things. So we've seen so many distractions. We have never been impacted by so much noise and negativity out there in the marketplace, out there in the media. I was listening to the news this morning and I turned it off. I went back to my notes because it just brings you down. So we're in an unknown space right now. I wrote a blog on the liminal time and liminal space. Does everyone know what that is? We're in a time between times. There's so many unknown factors right now, so many things that are out of our control. It's like a trapeze artist. So he's on one trapeze flying through the air and he lets go of that trapeze in anticipation to grab that other trapeze. It's that time in the air. That's the liminal time that we're all in at the moment, where we can't control what's going to happen. We can't control what the inflation rate's going to be, where interest rates are going to go, global supply chain challenges, sustainability and ESG and decarbonisation. These are some of the things that are top of mind for all of us, for our leaders, for our CEOs. Let me go on. Talent shortages, the war for talent that's happening right now, the power shift where employees hold an enormous amount of power right now. There's been a real shift. It will come back, but there's been a real shift. How do you manage that process? The hybrid working environment. My God, what a massive challenge that is, right? Is it? We'll come back to that. Fatigue and mental health, huge challenge for an enormous amount of people, for all of us in this room. The fact that the rebound hasn't come back. We were so looking forward to living with COVID and we're going to bounce back and it's going to go back to, the great old days. Well, that hasn't come back. Fear is a big one. All the negativity, all the stuff that we hear, it's instilling an enormous amount of fear. The geopolitical and the global instability that's happening, the war in the Ukraine, China. So, do I need to go on? Cybersecurity is another one. Do I need to go on? What I need to ask each and every one of you is, how many of those things can we control? How many of those things can we influence? Is there a lot that we can control? Is a lot of those things that we can influence? So COVID blew apart the whole existing narrative around and expectations around your role as an EA, our role as a leader, your role as a leader. Your role has become multidimensional as a CEO's role. A leader's role has become multidimensional. It presented you with a whole new range of factors and pressures. The old ways of doing things didn't suffice anymore. We needed to change with the times. So during the COVID period and currently, we are managing the mindsets, the diversity, and developing and shaping the whole culture online, remote, trying to build this whole culture in a hybrid environment. So the reality is you can't be all things to all people. So my question to you is, how are you addressing some of the leadership challenges that you're facing as EAs? How are you equipping yourself to perform in this new multi-dimensional environment that we're in? I love what Mario does in his team. I love the impact that they have, direct impact in terms of giving you back time, critical time, because that's one of the most critical resources to be the most impactful you can be for your leader and for your organisation. Everything that he does and his team does has an immediate impact. This set of essentials programs that they've come up with is incredible. It's going to equip you, and this isn't a sales pitch, but I truly believe in it. That's why I'm here today. It's going to equip you with the capabilities and the learnings to be better at what you do, to give time back to you, first and foremost, and to your executives, and be more impactful and do the things that you think and they think are important. Let me drink some water. So what is it that you need? And Mario touched on this on a number of fronts. And we're so aligned on so many levels. Self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and the ability and agility to shift the gears according to the context and the requirements. We can't be everything to everyone, but we need to be flexible enough to see differing perspectives and agile enough to incorporate new viewpoints in terms of, and information in terms of what we do going forward and in terms of our own point of view. You need to be in the driving seat, be the driving force in your life. It's up to you to actually make it happen. So, do you want to disrupt, or are you happy to be disrupted? I'm saying to you, disrupt, change things up. So disruption is such a negative word, isn't it? Is it? It's not a negative word if you're the disruptor and you're causing the disruption in your organization. And let me tell you, when we talk about mindset, you can be a disruptor purely and simply by not allowing things that are out of your control to affect what you say, what you do, and to take that smile away from you. That rhymes. So I need you to think long and hard about that, because so many of us in the organisation, outside of the organisation, are affected by what's happening globally, what's happening that we can't control, and it brings us down. You can purely be a disruptor by not allowing that to bring you down, by being that energy source in the organisation, by being that person that people want to be around. Not that negative individual, not that energy zapper, as I love to call them, who just saps the energy out of them, you know, that negative nanny, they used to call them, or whatever it might be, where you just meet with someone and you think, oh God, here we go. And it's like you bring it down, even though you're happy and things are looking really rosy and you know, you're glass half full, their glass half empty, and you bring it down to their level. Why do we do that? Why don't we try to bring them up? Be that positive influence in people's lives. So, as I said, disruption is not a negative word. I've just been given the 5-minute warning. So, disruption is not a negative word, okay? And, you know, we talked about the Great Resignation, and Mario and I have talked about at length about this. It's not, this is the great realignment. This is your opportunity as EAs to actually change things up and really make it count. It's your opportunity to actually change things in a way where you're aligning with your CEO, with your leader, with your executive team, and you're making the ultimate difference. So being courageous is extremely important. I'm just zipping through this because I've been given the 5-minute. So I want to go back to one thing and just share something with you. If I can, here we go. So we talked about mindfulness, which is extremely important. So mindfulness means you are self-aware and you're conscious of your thoughts, the situation and the circumstances. You're actually stopping. The most impactful people in my world, amongst CEOs and amongst EAs and amongst leaders of industry, which you all are the ones that sit there and listen attentively. We have 2 ears and we've got 1 mouth. We should be listening more than what we're speaking, right? The ones who listen, the ones who take time to digest and comprehend what's being said, taking the other person's perspective and the other person's background or their situation into account, and then speaking, are the ones that people stand and listen to. And that's usually you guys. You sit there and you're taking all this information in, all this data in. You are the litmus test. You're the eyes and ears of the organisation. So I need you guys to flip the switch in terms of some of the narratives that are out there. So instead of thinking about what does this situation demand of me, think about what can I demand from this situation. The power rests with you, and you need to think logically about that power and how you can turn that around. So ladies and gentlemen, it's time for you guys to step out of the shadows and into the light. Find your voice, use it, and own your own space and believe in yourself, because there's people around you, and sometimes we need people around us to believe in us too, just to lift us up. Back yourself. Ask for help, for training and development. The payback is enormous. You deserve it. You should demand it. Whereas a lot of EAs don't. They don't think they're worthy. But you know what? Oh, you're worthy. Because you know who's going to benefit at the end of the day. It's going to be your leader. It's going to be the organisation tenfold, even more than how you're going to benefit and what you're going to benefit. You need to think about them in terms of how it's going to benefit them, and then you'll get it across the line, because in essence, you're developing yourself. So this is an opportunity for you. It's an incredible time to actually change things around and realign the way that you did things, because what we did previously, pre-COVID, guys, we don't want to go back to that stuff. Yeah, the fact that people have work-life balance, sort of imbalance, and they're integrating it, there's no such thing as balance. They're integrating other parts of their life as best they can for them. There's no such thing as work-life balance. That's a furphy. Everyone's trying to find it. It's like this, holy grail. It doesn't exist. It's this pendulum that swings from work to life, and it's just a matter of swinging it. But we've integrated it better during COVID. It's the way that we look at things. Yes, it is what it is. But even more importantly, it's what we want it to be. And it's up to you. So emerge from the shadows. Embrace your resilience, your robustness, your skills, your knowledge. Step out. Believe in yourself. Disrupt. Be the disruptor. Don't allow anyone else to disrupt you. You be the disruptor. And then it becomes a positive word. Be empathetic. Be resilient. And anticipate what your leader needs before they actually need it, because that's what you do best. And most importantly, have a positive mindset and bring a smile to the table and be that energy source that everyone looks to. And remember, don't let anyone take your smile away. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. Incredible. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but I noticed a CEO up there working with technology. Just a little note. I'm going to take a little bit of credit for that because I taught him everything he knows about OneNote. And I was impressed. I love that. Just seeing him up here flicking through his screen. Wonderful. And the words, again, like grab me. Always something intriguing, relevant. His fingers on that pulse. Connector, networker, amazing man. So thank you so much, John, for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing. And just always just encouraging you to give you that confidence to be a disruptor or to go out there and do something different. So I'm hoping that everyone who's joining us is taking some of that feedback with them and really embracing some of these things that you're hearing today, because I'm also extremely excited to be introducing our next speaker. And you're going to hear from one of your peers. And a lot of you might even know her from EA conferences. And the person I'm speaking about is Samantha Webb, who I had the pleasure once again, surprise, surprise, meeting at an EA conference. And we met some years back, and Samantha was fortunate, I'm going to say fortunate, to win an executive session with myself and her CEO at the time, Georgie Harmon from Beyond Blue, who she was working with at the time. So there's, you can see Samantha's joining us virtually from Melbourne. Welcome, Samantha. So this is part of the hybrid world, right? We've got a speaker here in person. We've got a speaker coming through Victoria talking to us, and we've got hundreds of people joining us virtually. So this is the world that if you said this 3 years ago, we would have said, you're crazy. Imagine if your executive said, organize a conference, 300 online. I want this many people in the room. I want this. You would have thought, whatever, that's not happening. Whereas now you go, sure, what else would you like me to do? Would you like me to add a side of something else with that request? So just to give you a little bit about Samantha, Samantha comes with 20 years experience as a senior executive assistant. She's an innovative solution finder, which I love. And can I just say, I saw something magical, and I'll be honest with you, I've coached a lot of EAs and a lot of executives, but the connection I found with her and Georgie at the time, I said, there's something here that's extraordinary. Your working relationship, the trust, what you guys were doing was beyond. And I almost thought, what am I doing here? What am I going to add to this relationship? It's already amazing. But I did add some things. And I, according to Samantha and Georgie, at the time I added some process for them, and I streamlined their technology for them and helped them just be a bit more fluid. And to this day, Samantha tells me those skills are transferable, which I love to hear. I love to hear that those skills are transferable. So she's got 2 lovely teenage boys. She does love a good book and loves a good movie, don't you, Samantha? So
Absolutely.
Without further ado, I'm going to introduce Samantha Webb. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. Can you all hear me okay?
We can hear you loud
Fantastic.
and clear.
I'm glad I can't see myself. It's great. Other than that lovely photo you've got of me on the screen. It's very nice.
We can see you, which is awesome. And again, Samantha, so thank you so much for taking the time. Particularly, I know Samantha just recently transitioned in roles. So she's transitioned in the job, and that was an interesting area I wanted to focus on today. So I'm going to just go through, and we're going to have a bit of an interview with Samantha and just get to ask her some questions and talk to us about that journey. So Samantha, recently, again, in the last month, you were out there looking for a new role as an executive assistant. Can you just talk us through what the journey's like now? If you're an executive assistant and you're out in that marketplace and you're looking to work with a C-suite executive, what was that journey like for you?
Oh, yeah, look, honestly, it's a little tricky. There's a lot to navigate, and I think never before have I had to draw on the due diligence, the questioning, the making sure that you're getting that values fit right. So lots of questions about not only the organisation that I'm potentially moving to, but the person that I'm working with. So what their style is like, what their leadership style is like, what their management style is like. So lots of questions, and then you've got to navigate things like obviously the online interview. So that's a whole different ball game. Really trying to get a feel for someone online is almost impossible. The hybrid farewell, there's something we never thought we'd do. Eating cake in front of a screen full of people, that was probably one of the most awkward moments of transitioning. But then seriously, onboarding in a hybrid fashion, it's all had its challenges, but I'd say also some benefits. So I think I've had to really tap into my technical skills, but also my behavioural skills. And I know you've already talked about both of those things being really important. And I think the behavioural skills have had to really come to the fore, never more important than now. And that's all about asking the right questions, connecting with the right people, and really trying to use your intuition to make the right decision. And, you mentioned that Georgie and I had such a fantastic professional working relationship. That for me was the biggest risk in making this transition. I knew that I needed to take the next step in my career, but the biggest risk was not finding my next Georgie. So how was I going to get that right? So I did spend a lot of time asking questions of Chris and really trying to get to know her and her style and who she is as a person, to make sure that our values lined up. So I think it's been tricky in a nutshell, but also it's provided a lot of opportunity to learn along the way.
Beautiful. So tell me a little bit around, you're going for these interviews because you said you went for a few interviews for the role. What was some really valuable feedback that you received that would help other executive assistants out there who might be considering that? What's some feedback that you received?
Sure. So consistently, I interviewed for probably 3 key roles with different organisations before making the decision to move across to Australian Unity. And the feedback that I got consistently was around my ability to demonstrate my leadership and strategic thinking capabilities. So I guess the stuff that would sit in that behavioural side of the coin. So I think as an executive assistant who's worked with C-suite executives for a long time, you really hone your technical skills, and those are the things that you do, with your eyes closed before breakfast, and they're really, really important. And I know there's always more to learn and we can always hone them, but they're pretty much a given. Where I was able to really differentiate myself was to talk about the leadership and the strategic thinking capabilities. So not just to talk about them, but to actually give examples and to demonstrate my contributions that I was giving in my current role at Beyond Blue, then at the time, to the leadership conversation. So, and to the thinking when it came to strategy development. So those were the things that really did set me apart, I think. And that was the feedback that I consistently got.
Beautiful. And again, remember I mentioned earlier that whole concept of being more strategic in your thinking and your decision making. This is what executives are asking for more and more.
Absolutely.
And this is why I was curious to know when I knew Samantha was moving. I said, Samantha, what are they asking for? Tell us, talk to us about what are those needs, because they're the things you as assistants really need to know and be able to knuckle down on. And these days it's given, like when I speak to an executive, it's almost expected that you're going to have all the administrative stuff honed down anyway. They expect that you're all over technology, but you're not always all over technology all the time, right? Some people go, Planner, what's Planner, Mario? I'd love to know how to use Planner more. And that's where you guys need to really be those thought leaders in that space. So Samantha, tell us, you've been a C-suite executive for many years. What's the difference? What makes you, okay, so I'm an executive assistant, let's say, and I want to move into that C-suite role. I want to manage the CEO, which I know a lot of you in this room and online do, and it's exciting. What do you need to do? What do you need to have up your sleeve, or what are some of those skill sets that you would really be telling that person to get for them to go into that next step?
Well, I think we've already touched on it. And as you said, like you just gave that example of Planner, and that's a real live example for me right now. So I'll just sort of talk to that that I've been with Australian Unity for 5 minutes, but I can already see that they are, they're really working hard on their strategy, and they're really working hard on the leadership alignment piece at the executive leadership team level. And they're struggling to track and understand how to manage and monitor those things. And I can already see how Planner can help us with that. And I've already spoken to you about how we can get some training and get that moving. Yep. So it's about coupling your technical skills with your strategic thinking and your leadership ability to then understand, what does the business need? What does my executive need? What does my leadership team need to actually make sure they're focused on the right things, to enable them to really prioritize and get the right things done, and to be delegating or pushing down some of the other stuff. So I think that it's about being able to see the big picture and understand at an enterprise level what your business needs, what the strategy is, what does your sector look like, what are the environmental factors that are impacting the world in which you're operating, but also to be able to then sort of dive into the detail and to be able to understand how to bring solutions and help your leadership team and your executive to really be focused on the right things at the right time. So, I've made it my business to get really involved quickly into the strategy, into my leadership team, to understand who's who and what needs, to get done, what needs to get done at the right time. So I think for me, it's critical to marry those two things strongly together.
Beautiful. Nice. And tell me, like I just talked before about your relationship with Georgie, and you're scared that you're going to lose that, because I could say this for every executive assistant that I've coached. They say, sometimes I find this executive and I never want to let them go because I've got something magical. Can everyone relate to that at some point? And some assistants haven't found that. I know one assistant recently said, Mario, I'm still looking, and I almost felt like crying, because I said, once you find that, it's incredible. And, oh, wow, I get emotional. It's actually incredible. And I witness it every day. I actually see assistants who go, I've never had this level of relationship with anyone. And that's what I'm trying to nurture and bring out and create with assistants. And it's absolutely magical. So my question to you is, there must be that fear. You've gone in now to a new executive who I know you really love and adore, and even though it's only been a short time, how do you get those ways of working back?
Yeah.
And how do you just tune in quickly? Because we don't have time to sit there and do this over months now. We're busy. We need that happening. How do you do that?
Sure. Well, maybe I can just quickly tell the story. So you mentioned that I was lucky enough to have that session with you about 3 years ago now. And I think Georgie and I were with you for about 4 hours. We had about a half-day session with you, and we went through, you really challenged us to think about how we were working together. What were some of the processes we had in place? What was the tech we were using? But more than that, how were we connecting and talking and collaborating together? And you helped us to identify what was working, what needed to be tweaked, and what we might try to put some different things in place. What that did was it set us up for success, but it also gave us a bit of a model to then continue that conversation on a regular basis. So we were able to connect and partner really quickly, and to make sure that all of the detail was just done and taken care of, that enabled us to then be talking also about strategy and about the business at a bigger level. So I think that having that process in place meant that I could basically pick it up, lift it and take it with me when I started with Chris at Australian Unity. So it helped me to frame the conversations with her. It gave me the confidence to go into those conversations, knowing what I needed to tackle quickly, what I needed to get in place quickly, to then free me up to be having the strategic conversations with her. It's really made sure that I'm focused on the right things, and that I'm delegating the right things, that I'm putting the right things in her diary, that I'm filling her time with the right focus areas. It's really lined up to the strategy, and I've been able to establish myself as part of the leadership team really quickly, not as a support person to the team, but as a member of the team. And it's all about having that framework in place that you can just lift and take with you. So I think that's enabled me to have a bit more space in my brain to build knowledge around the business and the sector and the environment that I'm working in.
Nice.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely. So again, having that framework, having the right questions, being able to take what you have and go into a new executive and build on that, and the confidence, as John said. The confidence to be able to step into that space and take a seat at the table, which I know Samantha does so well. And I know we're really short on time. We're going to move into questions, but one quick last one. Favorite productivity tool, if you wanted to share it for you, what is it?
It looks really basic. I love OneNote. I'm a massive fan of OneNote.
Right answer.
So
Lucky you said that.
Right behind you with that. But I also
failure there, just in case you didn't.
But no, I also love tasks. You moved Georgie into using tasks.
Those of you that are not using tasks, you need to be using tasks. Brilliant. Okay, to do, yeah. Microsoft to do.
Yeah, love it.
Love it. All right, Samantha, we might hold it there because I do want to open it up to questions. So don't go anywhere. Stay there with us. And what I would like, again, give everyone a round of applause for Samantha Webb. Extraordinary EA, great speaker. I've heard her speak at conferences as well, and speaks from the heart. And I love that about you, Samantha. So thank you for giving us your time, specifically when she's just transferred into a new role and her world is crazy. To make the time, I honestly say thank you for making the time.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
No, absolutely welcome. So what we're going to do now, just to give everyone the opportunity, we've got a few more minutes here. I want to open it up to the room for any questions of John or Samantha or myself around what we've been speaking about here today. And also online, if any questions are coming through online. And Danny, if you want to read those out or let us know if there's a couple there that we can capture we've got a little bit of time. So we do have a roaming mic over there, so that can be just passed around. We can grab that mic and pass it around. But I might just firstly open it up to the room. Any questions from anyone in regards to what you've heard here today at our launch that you'd like to either ask any of our speakers? Brenda, we've got a question over here. Can we just grab the mic and just pass it over to Brenda? Thank you, Scarlett. Yeah, come up here, John, as well. Yeah, absolutely. Brenda. Samantha, can you see John?
Hi, Sam.
Hi, how are you, John?
Mario,
Yeah,
is it on?
mic's on. I think it might be on. Yes, should we go?
Okay, I just want to ask, so with the Essentials program, if I'm looking at OneDrive and SharePoint, is that something that I can just log in and it's going to be an online, or is this something I'm going to come into the office, or how's that going to work?
So the modules are all delivered by live facilitators. So they're all driven and delivered live facilitators, either face-to-face or virtually. So a lot of them we've been delivering virtually because of the nature where we've been. So again, something like OneDrive and SharePoint, usually because that's a smaller module, we usually would tee that up with Microsoft Teams because they go hand in hand. So that's one we'll link into that one. So yeah, you pick the module, you bring a group. So we've got usually at the moment, we've got numbers up to about 15 assistants can join that session or that module. At the moment, we're only running them in-house. And we will be looking at running them publicly in the future. So publicly means that you might have one or two EAs that want to come to that program, but stay tuned and we will be looking at doing that. But right now, a lot of companies have been booking us to go in there and do the whole group of EAs. And it's a good bonding and team building exercise for EAs in your business. Thanks so much, Brenda. Any other questions? Danny?
I've got an anonymous question.
Yes. Yes.
And it's actually for Samantha.
Samantha, this one's for you.
Let me get it. I want to get it exactly right. Samantha, could you give some examples of your strategic thinking?
Yes.
There you go, Samantha. That's a good one.
That's a great question. I saw that one come in and I thought, oh goodness. I guess what I mean when I say that I'm thinking strategically is I make it my business to understand what the strategy is in my business. So at the moment I'm working for Chris, who's the CEO of retail. She has responsibility at Australian Unity for the bank and the health, the private health insurance business. So I need to be all over the strategy for that business. And there are two key priorities at the moment that she's really focused on in that strategy. So when I'm thinking about my day and my work and her work and what she needs to be doing, I'm making sure that those key priorities of that strategy are front and center. Is what we're doing lined up and you know, important to what we're doing and what we're trying to achieve. So I've always got that lens, I guess, when I'm trying to plan her day and get things happening. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. And one of the questions we ask in the training needs analysis for executive assistants is, what are you aware of your executive's top 3 priorities that they're currently working on? And again, not every executive assistant is going to need to know that because you might not manage in a C-suite executive and you might not be that intense. But when you're dealing with that top echelon, you need to know that. You need to know that, be aware of that, know everything about that, immerse yourself in that, go to those meetings, understand the lingo, the jargon, and that's exact. I do absolutely understand that. And I'm hoping a lot of nods, I'm getting nods in the room. Does everyone understanding that as well? I'm sure a lot of you are doing that as well.
And it's not just those C-suite executives. If you're in a different role in the organisation, what's your business unit aiming for?
Yeah.
Correct.
Contextual information.
Yeah.
How can you fast-paced prioritise? How can you manage and recalibrate expectations? You can't because you don't have the contextual information. It's pretty cool.
Beautiful question. Any other questions in the room or online coming through? We've got a question over here.
Hi, I'm interested in how you recalibrate the thinking to include EAs in the leaders space, because we're currently going through Hogan 360 and the EAs are distinctly left out of that space.
So recalibrate the thinking of the leadership team.
Yep, to include EAs amongst leaders, future leaders in the business, etc.
John, do you want
Have you asked to be included?
to? I'm going to a leader here, right? Because he's the guy that works here.
And when you asked to be included, you explain why you wanted to be part of that and how essential it is to know the facets of that, because you guys are enablers and there's still that resistance as such.
The learning and development person completely gets it, but I clearly need to work on the CEO's point of view. I think my manager would get it. It's just...
And again, I'm going to cross over to Danny, because Danny, I'm just thinking behaviorally, language.
It's an upward leadership
Yeah,
strategy.
yeah.
So the first thing you've got to get your leaders to be considering, because one is what's the value to them in that. So if you can get them down the decision pathway, and we're all trying to get them to move through basically what we call the mind map of persuasion, is they've got to recognise that they're important in that decision, but find out what the trigger points are, that what's in it for them critically, and you being closer to that decision making. And if you can find how they see the value in that, you're positioning that over and over and over again. It's not a one-shot approach. You can't just go, I want to be here, I want to be at the table. It's going to be, do you imagine what I could be doing if I already knew that information before that's come to me today? Gee, is there a way that I could do that? I wonder how we do it. Is there any chance I could be at that particular meeting next time so I can get ahead of that curve? Constant little just, where can I be, where can I be, where can I be?
I couldn't agree more with that. I think it is incremental and you have to be persistent. For me, it's, I've not asked, I've actually just said, I need to be in that meeting because, and inserted myself into various forums with respectfully, of course, and then taken the actions and the learnings and the next steps from those meetings to show where I can add value. And then it's a living example. And the more you do that, the more you will be seen as a leader. So you have to operate and behave as a leader, and then you'll be seen as a leader, if that makes sense. But it has to be persistent and incremental over time.
Absolutely.
Can I just add one more thing? Within an organisation, you've got people of high influence. They don't necessarily have to have the title, but people stand to attention when they speak. Finding that person with influence and getting them on board, that could be the critical factor that gets you across the line. It might not be all the EAs, it could be just one or two. And then they can share the knowledge, the insights and what they've gained from that with all the other EAs and just disseminate all that out.
Find your foxes. Find your foxes, people, because we need to know who the foxes are, don't we, Philippa Carboni? Because we've got a fox in our company and she's sitting right over there. She might not be one of the leaders of the company, but she's been there for 27 years. And I can tell you now, people look to her and she's the fox you look for in our company. Okay. We need to find you some foxies. Okay. So guys, just in the case of time, and I know we've got delegates joining us online, I just want to say a few thank yous, and then we will be able to linger and have more questions here. So thank you, John. But just today, I really want to do a special thank you to our guest speakers today. John Carragunas, thank you so much for making the trip as well to Sydney for us, because he's also Melbourne based, and spending that time. Samantha Webb, new role, gave the time from the bottom of my heart. Really appreciate your time. Love what you've got to share. So thank you so much, Samantha, for sharing that with us. The extraordinary 10 EAs who came in early today to do some pieces to camera for our social media. You guys are in this room. Thank you so much. I've worked with a lot of you for years. Incredible. You got here early, you persevered, you did everything, you were troopers. There's agents out there looking for you guys to book you. So thank you so much. Everyone else who's joined us along the journey, along the way, you know who you are. I've had conversations with you. You've helped with the knowledge. Scarlett Vesper, who's put this event together for us and spearheaded this event with us. Thank you so much. Huge. Klaus, who's sitting over there as well. Thank you. My right-hand man, internal marketing, he's a bit like you guys, 15 hats, amazing, thank you. Danny Bennett, our behaviourist over there, who you can talk to, who's been really instrumental. Nikki Bull, who can't be with us, who's our guru. If you've ever had a session with Nikki, incredible. She will make Excel look like delightful fairy floss. No, seriously, absolutely fairy floss. And that's Excel and Word. If she can make those programs spark, then you're doing something incredible. And also Robbie Stewart, who's been helping us with some of the modules as well, who's doing delivery some around OneNote, one of the team. And the account management team over there, the angels you can see at the back there, Philippa, we've got Donna there, we've got Jackie, and the rest of the account management team have been incredible in their passion and their relationships getting here. And Wayne and Brett, who have believed in this mission from the start as well and been supportive along the way to bring us to here where we are today. I am so excited to everyone who's helped put this event together, behind the scenes, in front of the scenes. If I've missed anyone, apologies. And thank you to... And our wonderful sponsors and contributors. Those that are here today, you've got some goodies bags. You've got your QR code in there if you want more information in the modules, and you can chat to one of the team. We will be hanging around, and you can please feel free to hang around and linger. Those online, you will get an email. And our gift to all of you for coming from Priority would be, you've got a 20% reduced investment code in there as well, that if you do want to book a module, you will get a reduced investment on any module that you do book. So you'll find that in your bag for those here. Online, you will get that via an email that will be coming through to you. So in the sake of time and well-being, everyone, thank you. Have an amazing rest of the day and rest of the week. And EA Essentials program has landed officially. Woo!